While traveling through the Australian countryside, four friends come across a cursed truck that grinds up the bodies of its victims and turns them into fuel to power its engine. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Road Train, from 2010. In the middle of the Australian desert, Craig and Nina are camping with their friends Marcus and Liz. The two have a romantic moment and Liz proposes to Marcus, but the young man doesn't seem very interested. After spending a night in the middle of nowhere, the four decide to hit the road again in search of a new landscape to explore. Along the way, Craig sees a huge freight truck, known as a road train, in the rearview mirror. Nina has never seen one before, so her boyfriend lets the truck overtake so that she can get a closer look. However, as the huge vehicle approaches, it continues to speed towards the four friends. The youngsters fear that the truck is going to hit them, but a few meters before the collision, the driver swerves the vehicle into the other lane and continues down the road. What was supposed to be a moment of fun almost causes a terrible accident, and Craig doesn't like it one bit. He decides to overtake the huge truck, which tries to stop him, but Craig is faster and Liz takes the opportunity to insult the truck driver. However, this soon proves to be a bad idea, as the train on the tarmac begins to accelerate even faster towards them. Craig tries to go as fast as he can, but the truck catches up with him and starts ramming into the back of his vehicle. His friends ask Craig to change direction, but as the car is going at maximum speed, if he swerves, he could cause a rollover. Unfortunately, the car ends up overturning when the truck hits it hard in the back, causing them to veer off the road. Luckily, the four friends survived, but Craig suffered a serious injury to his arm and the car was completely destroyed. While Marcus tries to calm Liz down, Nina takes the first aid kit and bandages Craig's arm to stop the bleeding. The problem is that they need to get to a hospital as soon as possible so that the injury doesn't get worse and there's no one around to help them. However, when they look ahead, they see the truck that caused the accident, stopped in the middle of the road. Liz decides to go there to get back at the driver and demand help for Craig, with Marcus going along with her. After walking for a while, they reach the tarmac train, which is still stationary in the middle of the road with the driver's door open. They decide to take a closer look, but when they reach the cab, there is no one inside and the key has been left in the ignition. Although confused by this, the two continue to explore the vehicle and, soon afterwards, Craig and Nina show up to see what's going on. At this point, Craig begins to look closely at the vehicle, which has a small statue of Cerberus, the three-headed dog, on the hood. Somehow, the image affects the young man's mind and he can't look away, until Nina calls out to him and brings him back to reality. Craig can't explain the strange feeling he had when he looked at the car, but before he can talk about it, gunshots are heard in the distance. They fear it's the truck driver and their suspicions become real when he appears in the distance, running with a gun in his hand. With no other choice, the four friends get into the vehicle, with Marcus taking the wheel. The guy tries to stop them and fires several shots at the truck, but Marcus manages to get it started and speeds away. Having escaped their pursuer, the group decides to continue along the road until they find the nearest town. However, after traveling for a few minutes, the truck's stereo turns itself on and starts playing a song, which makes everyone fall asleep. In an inexplicable way, the road train takes them down the road on its own, while everyone remains unconscious. However, when they finally wake up hours later, they find themselves off the main road and in the middle of a high, narrow path. Unable to turn around, Marcus tries to reverse the truck, but it won't move and appears to be out of fuel. While they think about what to do, Liz comments that she has seen a hut near the road and suggests going there to ask for help. Marcus again accompanies her, but when the girl tries to approach him, the young man again rejects her. Liz then questions Marcus for acting strangely since the beginning of the trip and he reveals that he found out that the girl cheated on him with Craig. She admits she did it and asks for his forgiveness, but Marcus refuses, as she kept it a secret, while Craig revealed the truth moments before. Despite the tense atmosphere between the two, they head towards the supposed cabin in search of help. In the meantime, Nina is worried about Craig's state of health and decides to look in the cargo compartment for something that might help them move the truck. However, the compartments are locked and she decides to check that the fuel tank is empty. When she looks inside, the girl finds it strange that the tank seems never to have been filled, and yet the truck has taken them all the way down the road. Intrigued, she goes to check inside the fuel line and, to her astonishment, instead of gasoline, she finds a red, gooey liquid. Nina tries to find the source of this mysterious liquid, but seconds later, Craig comes out of the cab and starts behaving strangely. Meanwhile, Marcus and Liz reach the main road and there is no sign of the cabin the girl says she saw. This only makes the situation between the couple more tense and Marcus decides to seek help by another route, but Liz refuses and continues to look for the cabin. Back in the truck, Craig starts hallucinating and Nina believes that the bleeding in his arm is causing it. She tries to look after her boyfriend as best she can, but outside the cab, they hear the noise of an airplane flying overhead. Nina then leaves Craig in the cabin and tries to make a fire sign on the ground so that the plane can see the distress call and rescue them. She keeps trying to make contact, but inside the truck, her boyfriend keeps hallucinating disturbing images in his mind. Craig sees before him the same three-headed dog from the car statue, but in a real version. What's more, the hallucinations seem to call him towards the opening in the cabin, and when he sticks his hand in to see what's inside, Craig finds the key that opens the cargo compartment. Taken by his visions, the young man goes to the truck's cargo doors without Nina noticing. When he gets there, he manages to open it with the key and enters the compartment, but seconds later his cries of pain are heard outside. Far from there, Marcus continues along the road, having already drunk all the water he had and exhausted by the heat. If that wasn't bad enough, he sees a guy approaching, very similar to the driver of the truck they stole. Desperate, Marcus runs away as fast as he can, but the guy starts chasing him and fires several shots in his direction. After leaving the road and heading into the countryside, Marcus sees a broken bridge and hides under it in an attempt to lose the driver. At the same time, Liz continues to look for the cottage, as she finds herself surrounded by deserted countryside. After a long walk, she finally finds the place, but it seems to have been abandoned for years. Nevertheless, the girl looks for something to drink and finds an unopened can on a shelf. Without hesitation, she opens the can and takes the drink, which looks very similar to the liquid Nina found in the truck's tank. After taking her first sip, Liz can't stop drinking and, at the same time, Craig's visions of Cerberus also start to torment her. Things aren't easy for the girl, but for Marcus, the situation gets worse and worse. Despite hiding on the bridge, he is discovered by the driver, who pulls him out and threatens to shoot him. Marcus tries to resist and attacks the driver, but his efforts are futile and he is surrendered by the guy, who points his gun at him. However, instead of eliminating him, the driver deflects his gun and then a gunshot sound is heard on the road. While Marcus's fate remains unknown, his friend, Craig, climbs out of the truck's cargo compartment. He continues to act strangely and seems to be somehow possessed by the vehicle. Shortly afterwards, Nina notices that Craig isn't in the cab and goes out to look for him, but can't find him. She then returns to the truck and sees Liz, who came back after finding the cabin and apparently found nothing useful there. Nina suggests that the two of them look for help somewhere nearby, but Liz refuses, saying that they need to start the truck and head down the road. Nina accepts and the two get into the cab, but as they look in the rear view mirror, they see someone approaching. His clothes resemble those of the driver who chased them, but the guy turns out to be Marcus, who, like Craig, also seems to be possessed and sets out to attack them. He enters the cab, pistol in hand, and orders the girls to get out of the truck. The two girls are forced to obey and, after surrendering them on the ground, Marcus threatens to shoot Liz in the head. In a panic, the two beg for their lives and, lucky for them, Marcus regains consciousness. The young man then tries to calm them down, but shortly afterwards, he points his gun in the direction of the truck. Like Craig and Liz, Marcus is also having disturbing visions of the three-headed dog and starts shooting at the hood of the truck. However, as the vehicle is their only chance of escape, Nina picks up a wrench that was on the floor and strikes Marcus, who falls unconscious. She and Liz then carry him to an iron railing under the cargo compartment and leave him tied up there for safety. The two suspect that a dangerous force is controlling Marcus and, even with no sign of Craig, they return to the cab to try to start the truck. This time, the huge vehicle finally starts and the two decide to go backwards to get out of the place. However, Craig reappears near the truck and finds Marcus, who soon regains consciousness and finds himself tied to the vehicle. Craig helps him get loose and Marcus tells him that there is something very wrong with the truck. Not only that, the driver he confronted seemed to be being controlled and the young man had no choice but to eliminate him with his pistol. Despite this, Craig isn't shaken by the story and says that they should go after the girls to get out of there. Marcus agrees, but he senses that there's something strange about his friend's behavior and asks if he's all right. Craig says it's just an impression and, to prove it, he challenges Marcus to a fight, because even though his arm is injured, he still has the strength to take him down. Despite this strange attitude, Marcus accepts and the two begin to shove each other. The two friends seem to be having a good time, but the situation soon changes when Craig elbows Marcus in the face, followed by a knee. As a result of this surprise attack, Marcus is knocked down, just as the girls are backing up the truck, with no idea what's going on. Craig then seizes the chance and, after removing the bandage and revealing his restored arm, he drags Marcus towards the rear wheel of the truck. The young man tries to resist, but he is too weak and so his head is completely crushed by the tires of the road train. Just then, Nina notices that the truck is moving slowly and goes to check if anything is wrong. To her horror, she finds Marcus's corpse, its head blown to pieces. Liz appears shortly afterwards and can't contain her shock at seeing Marcus brutally murdered. After this shock, the two cover his body and put it back in the truck, so that they can give him a proper burial when they return home. However, Liz is still upset about what happened and lets slip that she just wishes she could be somewhere else right now, next to Craig. Nina then realizes what has happened between her and her boyfriend, but despite being furious with the girl, she knows she needs her help to get out of there. Nina then returns to the cab of the truck and tries to maneuver it towards the main road. Liz helps her by showing her the way, but shortly afterwards, she opens another of the cans of red liquid she found in the cabin. Just then, Craig appears in front of Liz and she asks him where he's been all this time. However, the young man just declines, saying that they can escape from there if they get into the cargo compartment of the truck. Because of her secret love for Craig and the truck's influence over her, Liz accepts and enters the cargo hold. But as soon as the doors close, her screams of pain are heard outside, including by Nina. The young woman leaves the cabin and runs to see what has happened, but instead of Liz, she meets Craig again, who acts as if nothing has happened. The girl is confused when she sees her boyfriend again, but he doesn't explain and just tries to convince her to get into the compartment. Nina also seems to fall under Craig's influence and decides to comply with his request. But just as she's about to go in, she sees Craig's bloody shirt stuck in the door and finds it strange that his arm is completely healed. Then, seeing that there is something wrong with Craig's behavior, Nina pushes him into the cargo and locks the gates from the outside. She then returns to the cab, turns the truck around and heads for the main road. After driving a few kilometers, the girl gets worried about Craig and goes to check the cargo compartment. As she approaches, she hears her boyfriend's desperate cries, ordering her to open the door, otherwise the wound on his arm will get worse. Nina is tempted to help him, but when she checks the fuel tank, she notices that the red liquid is leaking once again. The young woman decides to check inside the truck and finally discovers the reason for the leak. The fuel used in the road train wasn't gasoline, but a liquid made up of the remains of the truck's victims. Once eliminated, their bodies were taken to a grinding machine and the mixture of blood and entrails fed the vehicle's engine. Horrified by something so macabre, Nina leaves the compartment and returns to the cab, driving the truck as fast as she can to the city. However, while she's driving, the radio starts playing again and Craig and Liz appear from behind her seat. The two are completely dominated by the power of the road train and set out to attack Nina. The young woman tries to resist, but Liz pulls her into the passenger seat, while Craig controls the steering wheel and speeds towards a family's car on the road. Luckily, Nina sees the wrench she had found earlier and uses it to hit Liz, knocking her unconscious. She then tries to attack Craig, but he proves stronger and continues to accelerate the truck towards the vehicle. Despite Nina's best efforts, the truck crashes into the family car, leaving it in pieces and eliminating everyone inside. Seconds later, Liz regains her senses and attacks Nina once again, but she manages to defend herself and even pushes the young woman out of the truck. Like the family in the car, Liz has also become another victim of the road, which makes Craig extremely angry. Even so, Nina starts throwing punches and slaps at her boyfriend to force him to stop the truck immediately. Craig then brakes the truck abruptly, causing Nina to hit her head on the dashboard and fall unconscious. Minutes later, the young woman wakes up in the cab, but the driver's door is open and there is no sign of Craig around. She then gathers her last strength and sets off down the road, until she meets her boyfriend again, dragging Liz's body into the cargo compartment. With the young woman perishment, he decides to put her in the shredder to give the truck more fuel. Before doing so, he asks Nina to help him and, although she refuses, Craig says that if they join the truck, they will have the chance to achieve everything they want. Faced with this proposal, Nina seems to accept his words and helps him carry Liz's body into the compartment. However, when it's her turn to enter, the young woman kicks the lunatic, pushes him inside and tries to lock the gates from the outside. Unfortunately, this time Craig manages to get out before she does and pulls the girl back in, as well as pushing her head against the iron support of the truck. The blow leaves the girl bewildered and Craig decides to take her to the machine so that she can also be fed to the truck. The villain carries her body to the crusher and, like Liz, Nina will suffer the same tragic fate as the other victims. This seems to be the end for her, but at the last minute, the girl resists by head-butting Craig in the face and using an iron pipe to hit him. Thanks to this, Nina gains enough time to get out of the cargo compartment and flees into the forest, not knowing where to go. However, Craig also comes to his senses and, being angrier than ever, he sets out to capture her. Moments later, Nina continues her escape and tries to make as little noise as possible so as not to attract Craig, but he still finds her and knocks her to the ground. The young woman punches him in the stomach and tries to run away again, but the villain manages to grab the backpack she was holding and pulls her towards him. As they struggle, the two end up knocking the backpack to the ground and, inside it, Nina finds the pistol Marcus was carrying. With a lot of effort, she manages to get hold of the gun and points it in Craig's direction, who walks towards the young woman, trying to convince her to put the gun down. Nina again seems to hesitate, but when Craig approaches her, the girl fires a shot into his body. When he is hit, Craig appears to be free of the truck's control, but Nina doesn't want to take any chances and unloads the pistol on her boyfriend. Craig then falls to the ground, already lifeless, while Nina cries at having been forced to eliminate the man she loved. After this tragedy, she returns to the road and sees the truck parked, but soon after, two guys appear walking towards the vehicle. Nina tries to stop them, as she knows they will be the next victims, but it's no use and the two men continue with the truck, possessed by the spirit of Cerberus. As night approaches, Nina returns to the scene of the accident and finds, among the remains of the victims, a container of water, a blanket and a chair. With nowhere else to go, she takes the supplies and waits for help, having lost her friends on such a traumatic day. Little does she know that the road train is still traveling down the road and that the curse of the three-headed dog will continue to look for more victims. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.